for coming out here. I'm Alexandra, and today I'm here to talk about social media. Now, this year I started high school, and from homecoming to going to the games to joining new clubs, meeting new people, and starting my business, this year was packed with new experiences. And as I progressed throughout the year, I started to realize that the one underlying thread through it all was social media. By thread, I mean that social media was not only used, but essential to all of these activities, from how we market homecoming to how we communicate with each other outside of school. So I started to get curious when I learned that some of my friends had started deleting their social media accounts. It became more and more common to hear in conversations that I was in certain social media apps called toxic, and with initiatives like No Social Media November at my school, designed to help pull students off of social media, I began to wonder, is Gen Z's approach to social media really changing? Now, here's the thing. Gen Z and social media have a very intertwined reputation. It's difficult to imagine one without the other. Gen Z is perceived as, at best, social media experts, and at worst, as social media addicts. And as a society, we're becoming increasingly aware of the negative effects social media can have, specifically on our mental health. For example, a psychiatry study done by the Journal of American Medical Association found that young people that spend more than 3 hours a day on social media are at an increased risk of developing mental health issues, like depression and anxiety. This is not surprising to us that social media has these problems, but with more than 1 billion users on TikTok alone, social media also has some incredibly strong pull factors, like how it can help a business. A PR Newswire survey of over 1,000 small businesses found that more than 2/3 of these rely on social media as their primary digital marketing tool. Social media can provide people with a creative outlet, a business platform, a community, and a way to access more people. And for that reason, I don't believe that social media is intrinsically negative. The inherent problem with social media is that we use it without understanding that it is a balance between both its positive and negative factors. This feels so complex to us to have the same app be both a problem and a powerful tool at the same time. And this is where we tend to make these generalizations, like social media is completely toxic, or Gen Z is addicted to their phones. We like to put things in a box, under a label. But because our perception of social media is made up of all of its problems, all of its possible dangers, tangled up with the guilt that we feel from using it, from liking it, from these thoughts of, am I addicted to my own social media accounts? How much is too much? We create this downward spiral where it is almost impossible to use social media in a constructive way. We solve nothing when we decide that social media is completely negative and then continue to use it in the same unconstructive way as before. But it's necessary to acknowledge the problems that it can solve. So, the complex way that we perceive this problem is what is driving us away from actually solving it. So today, let's give social media a simpler, more accurate label. Let's call social media a product, which makes us its consumers. Seeing social media as a product immediately gives us more power than seeing it as the bottomless pit we fall into during our free time, because a product implies choice. A product exists to fulfill consumer demand, which means that we, as consumers, have influence over our demand over social media. So how do we exercise this influence? We do so by becoming conscious consumers. Now, let me give you an example. When you're at the grocery store and you pick up a product, say an apple, you expect it to be a high-quality apple because you're paying for it. As a conscious consumer, you know that the value of that product should match the price you're paying for it. Well, social media may not be a tangible product, but we do pay for it with our time, our habits, and most importantly, our attention that is essentially sold to advertisers. So, as conscious consumers of social media, we have 2 ways that we can exercise our influence over social media. Option 1 is to change how we use social media, and option 2 is to change the type of social media that we use. Now, here's where Gen Z's mindset change comes in. Growing up with social media, all of us in Gen Z see ourselves as its biggest consumers. Social media has been uniquely available to my generation for our whole lives in a way that no other generation can truly relate to. This makes us the most adept at becoming conscious consumers. Gen Z is utilizing option 1, changing how we use social media. And for some, like my friends, that means deleting their accounts. On a larger scale, Gen Z has created movements, like the Log Off movement or the No So November movement at my school, designed to help pull students off of social media and educate them about the effects it can have on our mental health. But option 2, changing the type of social media that we use, is also becoming very popular. This has led to widespread apps like Be Real, an app designed specifically for authentic connection. Now, there's an irony here, that my generation, the one most infamous for how we use social media, is the one pushing for it to change. But Gen Z has proven that it is capable of change, and now it's time for us all to do so too. It's clear that some form of social media will always be necessary in our society. So like Gen Z, we need to change our approach to it. We can do this by thinking big and zooming in. Just like Gen Z, we need to think big, see the full picture of social media, that it is a balance between both its negative and positive factors, and most importantly, that we need to be conscious consumers over it. Then we can begin to mirror the collective change that Gen Z has sparked and begin changing our approach to social media. But collective change doesn't happen overnight, and this is where zooming in comes in, all the way to your personal accounts. So today, I want you to take a minute and self-reflect on your own social media accounts. I want you to ask yourself, am I a conscious consumer over my social media accounts? Do my social media accounts perpetuate my connections? Do they help maybe spread my message, grow my business, or provide myself and others with a community? If so, continue using your social media consciously. But if when you reflect, you realize that your social media accounts are limiting your connections, or detracting from your focus, or have maybe even become an addiction, take a step back and ask yourself if the way you use your social media is worth the price you pay for it. If it's not worth it, close the app, turn off your phone, think about what you prioritize the most and how you can incorporate these priorities back into your accounts. Ultimately, it's the modern world, which means that some form of social media will always be in our society. But we need to change our approach to it to be more flexible. Just like Gen Z, if we can think big and zoom in and become conscious consumers over our social media accounts, we can ultimately create real change and make social media a more positive and constructive tool. Thank you.